Hey, good morning, everybody. A little quiet here while we close things down until next week. And heading back up to the top of the range. Let's see if it gets there today. And pretty wild. It's up and down moves. And see what's in store for next year. So one of the themes that we spoke about this week was keeping things in perspective and looking at multiple time frames. With this whip down and back up and then back down again. And, during those uh, down movements, it certainly looks like it's going to keep going. It certainly did here as it whipped back and forth because that was the initial down move. And then it goes right back up again. And it's that thing's, of course, it's going to keep going and make new all-time highs. And it did poke up there for a brief moment and then right back down again. And it looked like it was going to keep going down and test here and now right back up again. And so, putting in perspectives, I said, hey, look at this weekly chart. This was a strong momentum move off of the low. And while these bars are wide and overlapping each other from a longer term perspective, there's nothing going on here but noise. And kind of stinks when that's happening, but I guess it's just part of the markets, where at times it gets like this. And, with all the news, which I'm not going to repeat, the bars were so big, and when you get these huge bars like this, which we call power bars or wide range bars, historically, they suggest that prices are going to keep going down. And while they did initially to come right back up and get a power bar back up again, and then the whip down. And so just putting things in perspective as we end this week and go into the last week of the year, that, putting things in perspective like this keeps our focus where it needs to be, which is what is. So, and we see, in pre-market here on the 5-minute chart, little topping pattern as it gets close to here. You can see, where the opens and closes are. You can see the tails. But as it gets up there, sellers come in, knock it down, look to the left, swing low, pops back up again. So we got erratic price action going on here, pre-market this morning. And so while this was trending, it's all gotten whippy again as we get closer to the open. Factory work, go to a higher time frame. And so we look at the 15, is intraday, and we look at the hourly, and the hourly is still in a nice uptrend. And pivot low, there's our major support. And we'll see if this now holds that swing low. Can it continue to go up into, I guess, what we'll call the destination of this move down? And you see the void, and until it violates a prior swing low on the hourly, we make the assumption that these dips are buyable and that this will continue to move up somewhere. Maybe it goes all the way up to the top of the topping tails because there's nothing here to stop it. These overlapping bars, right, this little overlap of open and closes right there tells me that there is some basing action on a smaller time frame here or here. And maybe that's why this probably stopped moving up at that point. And there might be some trader pivot line since we're looking at the futures. I don't know. I used to look at that stuff and kind of moved away from it some years ago, just moving toward the simplicity of the price action and support and resistance. Qs, they've been the weaker, coming up toward their destination. And even this hourly chart really enforces what we call the power of the void. And so this was one of my light bulb moments many years ago, trying to figure out why do prices trend and other times not. And you go through this process that I guess most of us go through, looking at fib retracements and extensions and all types of I'll call hocus pocus types of analysis, trying to figure out where prices are going to stop and reverse. And lo and behold, when I removed that stuff and just looked to the left and said, there's nothing to trade against. There's just all of these things that we decide to put on a chart that find these so-called proprietary reference points through these various measurements. And then is why don't they stop there? And there's a void. There's nothing to trade against to the left there. So we view that as this could just keep going up until it reaches something, unless it violates major support, which it hasn't done. And so we put our line in the sand here, put an alert, and see what happens. By all the noise until I found Robert saying I was bombarded by all the noise until I found master traders. Thank you for making this easier to comprehend. Robert, it's hard. It's really, really hard to avoid the noise because we're inundated with it when we come to the markets, whether it's books, of course, websites, webinars. There's always somebody with some indicator or proprietary measurement or Elliott wave or some kind of, esoteric way to find out what's to the left. And it really is amazing how simple it really is, but we all think of the market as being complicated, and it is complicated because there's so many different approaches and so on. But as far as the technicals go, if I said it once, over the last 25 plus years, 30 years, look to the left, my gosh, and still saying it, and they'll say it forever. Right? Yeah. They're saying the gift to me is removal of emotion. And that's through money management in a simplistic, systematic way. Those of you that join us here in YouTube and here in the green room and pre-market and green room during the day, you see that it's a repetitive, systematic approach. And yeah, there's times of uncertainty where, like, you look at this and it's like, what the hell's going on here? We still look to the left, but we got these overlapping bars, and it just, it makes you crazy day to day because things are directionless, and you just have to step away, look at a higher time frame, and say, it's the way things are here. Don't fight it, because you can't. So the Russell, made its move off of the low, excuse me, had to break below the lows there and pop back up again. And our bar by bar analysis told us buyers are stepping up on the dips, and we got a power bar, and now it's coming up into resistance, and coming up to those pivots. Things are stalling, and I guess we'll see how this sets up going into next year. Right now, it's just basing at the bottom. It should have never went all the way back down there. Sorry for the noise here. They're doing some construction work. YM, same story, and interestingly, I think I mentioned this in the green room or here yesterday, was like that. It's interesting that the similarity in the patterns across these indices are very much the same intraday. And that isn't always the case. A lot of times they're very, very different. But currently things are tending to move in lockstep almost. Silver, coming back up. We talked about the breakdown bar failure potential. That failed, and it was kind of like a double failure, but it just needed to come all the way down here before buyers felt comfortable. And here we go, coming up into the void. and we got a nice weekly retest. And here was a discussion in the green room. Some of you maybe leave early, you don't hear that, or those on YouTube, obviously you don't, but we had a nice discussion on W bottoms and the structure of W bottoms versus what many look as this is a W bottom. And W bottoms are preceded by a momentum move. This is a trending move. And this made a low, obviously, but W's have shallow retracements. And so a W is drawn like this, right? But a W in trading is like this. So in other words, it doesn't have a deep move, right? So, or like that. It doesn't have this deep move all the way back up to the high. Nonetheless, prior low is something we're going to pay attention to. So this momentum move down, and this is what we call a shakeout and move up. So this looks like it can keep coming up into this area. And we got a nice weekly retest pattern up down there. All right. Gold. A little messy, but didn't quite get down here, but it has been showing relative strength to silver, but quiet here this morning. Oil popping back up, little shakeout pattern. So it's into this congestion and it's trying to rebuild here. Not so sure because it's not a clear pattern, but this event, as we call it, begins to suggest this can continue to go higher, but it's dealing with this congestion here. SPX today, Glenn. 4,700 is right here. There's a big open interest there. Just go look at where the premium is. And if there's any premium up here, go for it. If there's any premium down here, go for it. It isn't coming out of this range. It isn't coming out of the top of the range and it isn't coming down below the bottom of the range today. And I think that's as simple as I can make it. I haven't even looked at the premiums, but just based on this price action, if you can get something up above here, and anything I would say down below 4,600 a ways down here will be just fine. I don't suspect this might be able to get higher, it's going into, the Xmas. And so you get above this area and it'll be fine. Bitcoin whipping around, nothing to do there, but nice bottoming action going on. And, our transports had a nice recovery. So, the markets are going to stay in this trading range here for a little bit. And maybe even into next week. We'll see. Hey, going to go new year. Maybe it'll pop up to new all-time highs. Let's see what happens when we come back here next week and see what happens today. And that being said, everybody, you have a safe, fantastic holiday there on YouTube. And, Dan and I will be back next week, and we'll be back with an MT Live on Wednesday, taking Q&As, so you can sign up at the website. That being said, take it away, Dan.
Good morning. Happy Zero DTE Day with tomorrow a holiday, stock market holiday. All right, there's not many earnings. We have a big inventory of put spreads and directionals. We've been very active this week, so we've taken advantage. Even though the daily chart spiders here was no great pattern, we've been saying the 15-minute chart's been on a power up trend for 2 days now. In my bias, the last 2 days was up. So fine more compelling setups on individual stocks or ETFs and just use this as our mothership strength. But yeah, I love getting in on the turn day because the more up bars it is, closer to resistance, as you're getting closer to the destination, as Greg said. We had a beautiful put spread in this. We were talking about yesterday doing a directional, Greg, and I don't know why we didn't. This has a monster void on the weekly. I just posted Disney, looks fantastic. Somebody in the green room mentioned this into the close, gapping up here, gap's not too big, going sideways. It looks fantastic as a new trade. I was also watching these hotels yesterday. Now here's an example of what Greg said. This is not a W bottom because it retraced, 60%, but it's a bullish retest and it's a tradable bounce. Bullish weekly. I like this one better as a bigger void, I think. But see, now it's moving too much. This was a 1, 2, 3 after new low plus. There was some news in China, which is making these casinos go. When we've been talking about last 2 days, that was on my list today as a 1, 2, 3, but now it's up at $90. That was my target at 50 MA. So gap's messing it up. Well, let's see. John Williams asking about Tesla. Tesla's on my list actually right here. It's too extended and no pattern on the daily, but I do like the weekly buy setup engulfing bar, and the 15-minute chart is still tradable. Maybe for a day trade, it did gap up and pull in, but it's actually turned negative here, which is a little bit of relative weakness to the Qs and the other fangs. So I don't know, but the 0 DTE day, I'll be on the lookout for the usual suspects and anything else. Google here, looks like a good put spread. How far you can get. It should not, there's a nice little continuation pattern. You go down a little bit. 28.70 should be fine for today, if there's juice there. Facebook, it's a big mess. Jacopo, IOVA. Yeah, there's been a lot of, there's been a lot of beautiful bottoming patterns. Yes, this is fantastic. That's right out of our MT Live class of bottoming patterns. Downside shakeout, inverse head and shoulders. Now you got a bull 1, 2, 3, bullish price action in the upper 70-80% of this bar with a price void. So it looks fantastic. IOVA. And it's down a little bit, which is good. Let me put this in a window. IOVA. It better not be a bio. It kind of has that little ring to it. It's bio. See, for some reason I can tell just the flavor. I can tell the flavor of the symbols. It's a bio, but if you don't mind trading bios, day trade, then that's great. Detective, I don't have a list yet, but Disney's definitely on there because I just posted as a directional. So, any directional is also a put spread idea. And Disney doesn't even have to be 0. We can go to next week. Voom.ong. I don't know what that means. Yeah, I don't get that symbol. That's a different exchange. 20 Delta, one's General Motors, 20 DTE. Yes, it's reversing on support, but I can find you so many better patterns like Disney. Disney is superior pattern as a turn to GM. So over 5-minute high, you can do your 20 delta puts on Disney, F-cell. It's regular hours, Chris, because we have the whole day tomorrow. F-cell, there's no potent reversal yet. It's in a power downtrend, so I have zero interest in that right now. Target just form M-top on the weekly and monthly. Yeah, we talked about that the last couple of days, the M-top. But you got to just use common sense, and then we'll look at it. If we've had two big down bars on a monthly chart, then it's a fact that the daily and weekly are extended. So you need to pick your entries. This actually would have been a fantastic entry right here at 240. Went sideways, couldn't bounce. That was your ideal entry, the short target for a core short. Greg, so I think you were looking at silver futures, but the SLV ETF looks fantastic. Inverse heading shoulders. So this looks great. Target 50 MA. So detective, you can see if there's any puts on this too. You can check, check milk, check these hotels. We nailed the entry in these hotels. We're still in this Hyatt, but look at Hilton, Marriott. We nailed Jets. We're in both long stock and short puts, and it's holding well. Let's see, Dunking, we're in that from yesterday, but you can add yesterday's high. QDEL 140. Oh, that's a deep, nasty gap, but I have no idea what to do with that. JD, there was some news, Chinese stock. These Chinese stocks, you definitely got gap risk, that's for sure. Nikola. Now, all right, it's gapping at $10. It's a bottoming pattern, but it's not ready yet because this green bar failed. But if it can maybe 30-minute high, let's come back to it. This detective, this was yours from yesterday. Dropbox still looks fine. Yesterday's high, bottoming pattern. Here's a bottoming pattern, kind of an inverse heading shoulder. Shoulder, head, right shoulder, price void. That looks fine. 5, 10, 15-minute high. As always, we'll be saying what the mothership looks like before we enter longs. Sanmina. Greg mentioned this as a 1, 2, 3 yesterday, but it kept going. That's the 1, 2, 3. A little sloppy. You can set an alarm, maybe 209 if you want. See if it gets up there. CAE, we're already in from yesterday. Here's another beautiful double bottom. Absolutely right out of the textbook. And then, the right side, the turn we call it on banker support, occurs in different flavors. But we entered this yesterday. It looks great. Sample. Nah, got resistance there. S we entered yesterday, make it puts. Twitter, not a double bottom because of this bar, but a retest over yesterday's high. Could be put spread and long stock. This is a W bottom. See, folks, how easy they are to detect. Momentum move down, little bounce. New low plus. Bullish weekly reversal. A recur bottoming pattern, but it needs a something bar to get it going. GPN, that was on my list. actually Delta 20, I think, gave this to us yesterday morning. And I said I liked it a lot. And that would have been a great 30-minute high trade yesterday. OIH retest pattern. We shorted a put spread yesterday. Paychecks had earnings on a tear, but it's all-time highs. We'll keep an eye on it. Trip, possible bottoming pattern, but still lower lows, lower highs. Bumble, possible bottoming pattern, retest here, gap fill. Some of these take a few days to set up. Cream, it's a retest with a new low, but it's at the 200 and it's not going down anymore, so could take a few days. To give you a great example of one that I was watching for weeks, this JWN nasty gap down, went up, still not ready. Closing low, went sideways, didn't make a new low, closing breakout, price void. So we shorted naked puts on this yesterday, but look, it took a whole month of watching this to get me to put on a trade. Snap, I like it. I like the pre-market. This could be a day trade. Day trade maybe. Novita, we already looked at. No, we didn't. It was Nicola. So as long as it holds the upper 50% of this, tick 1145. H up alarm. All right, H. H, we gotta start. We gotta take half profits on this. All right, Disney coming in, which is fine. We might get a new setup. We might get a new setup into the gap fill reversal. I'm watching it on a 5-minute chart. We have a bunch of zero DTEs expiring here today. All right, so we can close half here of Hyatt. Hey, David, instead